You're listening to the Neurospice and Life podcast.
I'm Hanna, sexologist, sensologist, lovable weirdo, oversharer, and not sorry about it.
And I'm Freya, alexithymic counsellor, mum, chaos wrangler, and happy little steamroller.
Whether you're neurotypical or neurodiverse, our podcast is for everybody and every brain that has ever been labelled.
Welcome back.
I'm Hanna.
I'm Freya. And today we are having a look at stupid and being more compassionate to ourselves.
Absolutely. And with stupid, I think that it's so easy to compare ourselves to other people.
Yeah.
And there's a quote that, Theodore Roosevelt once said, which is, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And
love that.
think about that a lot because, like most people, I like social media.
Yes.
I like scrolling and I look at other people's lives and wonder how is it that they can do so much, achieve so much. And it's kind of robs me of the joy that I have about my own achievements.
And as you say that, I'm just like sitting here I'm so impressed you can remember his name. And like who actually said the quote. I love that. That is not a part of my brain that exists. I love that. And it's such a good call out about social media. I personally am not on it at all. Like I've got sites set up from a business perspective, but you won't actually find me there because I know for our brain types and the dopamine chasing and the reward mechanisms we get sent on it, from doing it can make it quite addictive to actually keep scrolling and stay engaged with it. But at the same time...
There's a reason why they call it doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling. And at the same time, though, we're being bombarded by so many messages and comparisons constantly and things that make us feel unsafe. And so there's like a lot of psychologists that work really, really hard to come up with the optimal ratio of like things that are sad or threatening or scary interdispersed with ads and promotional placement, right? Because if we feel scared, we feel sad, we feel uncomfortable, we want the uncomfortable to stop. What do? We buy something that gives us dopamine and a bit of serotonin, we feel a little bit better, and then life is good, and then we keep scrolling and repeat. So it's like, for me, it's something I discovered many years ago as being incredibly beneficial to my mental health, not playing the comparison game. Because no matter which way you do it, there is always going to be someone ahead of you.
Well, it's a competition trap too.
Yeah.
Because you're comparing yourself against somebody else, and then this idea of better,
Yes.
and also, am I better that person? Is that person better than me? And you're right. Like, there are things that you are way better at than me or most people. And there are things that, I like to think that I do better as well.
You do, absolutely.
And so it's this...
And there are things that I do a lot worse as well, for the record, people. A lot of things I do a lot worse, yeah.
But there will always be someone better at something than you, but you will always be better at something than somebody else. And if you have a look at that generality aspect that we were just talking about, you can't be good at everything.
It's not possible.
And I think about things like painting, for example.
Yeah.
My fear of failure starts long before I've ever put paint to canvas.
The canvas, yeah.
Because I have an idea in my head and I want the outcome of whatever I do to be
like
exactly like what's in my head. And if I haven't, then that's a fail.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing, this time I can't remember the name because I can't remember where it's from, but there was a quote that was talking about writing, for example.
Yeah.
Now, if you start out to become a writer, unless you have a natural aptitude for it, you're basically a 3-year-old starting out.
Mm-hmm.
And what does a 3-year-old do in order to get better at writing? They write more.
Yeah.
And so, any kind of neurodiversity or, motor skills aside, the idea that you are perfect from the get-go is a fallacy.
Yeah.
And it's another lie, I think, often sort of perpetuated by social media. Being able to see your own progress, I think, is actually the biggest reward of all. Because being able to look back, even though it's not immediate, and my brain loves immediate because...
Oh, so good.
It's so good. It's so better than
juicy.
a donut.
Yeah.
The
reality is that's not how we learn.
No. And I look back on the writing because for some reason I found essays from when I was in uni way back when. to the essays that I wrote now, or even the essays I started with at uni, and the difference when I was doing my master's, and the difference that 3 years made. It's incredible. It's like almost a completely different person. And so you have to have that process journey in order to be able to get to wherever you want to be. It just depends on whether or not that journey is worth it.
Yeah. And what I love when I talk about that, and that practice makes better, as opposed to practice makes perfect, practice makes better, or practice makes progress.
Well, the idea of perfectionism
but we all do it. We all do it secretly. But it's also like the example I give to people is like, you think about like how long it takes us to learn to walk, how long it takes for us to learn to talk. There's this patience involved in that. Like, kids don't get up one day and then they're like running around the house like a Olympic athlete, right? It's such a slow and painful process, right? It starts with getting, the ability to like turn over and to be able to push themselves up, right, on their hands, to be able to hold their own head up, to then be able to sit independently, to then being able to pull themselves up on furniture, right? Like, it's really, really complicated. The same thing with speaking. It starts with base sounds, right? And it goes from there and it builds from there and there and there. Everything we do takes time, and to get proficient in one language, hats off to anyone that's proficient in two or more. Like, whoa.
Shout out to the bilingual people.
Amazing. Like, again, something that's really, really hard for me. But there seems to be this, we lack patience as we get older. And there's this sense of immediacy of like, I'm good at these other things, which might have taken you 5, 10, 20 years, whatever to do. So why am I not good at this other thing straight away? Or I look to the person next to me and it's easy for them, so therefore it should be easy for me. And it's really faulty logic.
It is, because when you talk about learning to walk for the first time, you're advanced beyond that. By the time you're 25 or 35 or 45, the idea of having to learn to walk again in a different way feels exhausting. And you think that whatever skills or attributes that you've built up to that point should be enough to drive forward whatever, to be able to have you at a certain level. And the reality is it's like learning a new language to start with. And we're both learning German for different reasons.
And to different levels of efficacy. It's pretty bad. Like, for me, like, I was at uni for 2 years learning German and like 12 months at high school, and I walked away with 3 phrases. I like cheese. Well, no, my name is Freya. I like cheese. Where is the bus? And I managed to get the gender of bus wrong when I tried out my German in Austria, much to the amusement of the German people around me. But like, again, like, we're both learning, but we're taking our time. We're doing it in different ways, and it's, whatever works for you, like, is fine. But it's removing that comparison point from it, I think, is the big thing.
Yeah. I find that if it's just me and nobody else kind of knows what I'm doing, then I can learn kind of by myself.
You're less afraid to fail? Or like...
But as soon as I tell anybody, even if there's no expectation on their end, I've anticipated expectation, because it could just be as simple as them going, oh, you'll be really good at that. Yeah. And automatically I go, I have to be amazing at this. And straight away.
So their words of encouragement are almost like setting that bar really high for you. Yeah.
Which is hilarious, because if they said to me, oh, you'll be really bad at that, either I would take that as a personal challenge to prove them wrong, but I probably also wouldn't talk to them again.
I'll do that next time. Like, you'll suck at that. You'll suck at that. But then it's a funny thing, right, is you say this stuff to people too, and half the time, or at least in my brain, I forget as well that you've even mentioned it. And you'll be like, I'm learning German. I'll be like, oh, good for you. I've like completely forgotten. Like, we talked about it before. But my brain doesn't work that way. Yeah. And that's what I love about this idea of like the Starry Profiles, right? And that your own pattern of brilliance and owning the pointy bits, owning the strengths, but also owning the bits that are hard for you, and then finding strategies and accommodations to make those hard bits less hard.
There was the famous tennis player, and I want to say her name was Martina. Someone. Names are hard. But there was a story of one of the more famous female tennis players women tennis players.
Sorry, just for the record too, she's looking at me like hoping I'll give her the
Pretty
answer.
much.
And I'm like,
no.
Like, nah. Can't. Not even.
I don't know why I'm looking to you.
Not even like a first letter. Like not even a first letter. I'll be like, that guy that we met at the thing and his name was Paul, and you'll be like, you mean Steve? And I'm like, yes.
Them.
So you're looking at me as this famous female tennis player, name to be determined. If you know who it is, put it in the comments. Put us out of our misery. But yeah.
So this tennis player, she had an amazingly strong forehand.
Yeah.
And so she was almost winning Grand Slams, but never quite getting there.
Yeah.
And she went through all these different coaches, and they were all telling her to work on her backhand because her backhand was the one that was the weaker one. And so they were all trying to get her to work on her weakness in order to get her up to that. She finally got one coach that said, forget your backhand, your forehand. Your forehand's your strength.
Yeah.
Let's work on that. Let's work on perfecting that. And she won a Grand Slam.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure that's how the story goes. 1, 2, it might have been her backhand that was the stronger and not the forehand. Details are important. But the point of the story is that if you continually try to work on all of your weaknesses in order to turn them into strengths, you're not going to get anywhere.
No.
You have to identify what your strengths are and work on those, because those are the things that support you, and understand and accept that you, 1, do have weaknesses.
Yeah.
And 2, it's okay to have them, and it's okay to not turn them into strengths.
Yeah. And I think that's a big difference between looking at accommodations, 100%, as opposed to looking at trying to re-engineer them into strengths. Like an accommodation is more like, I find this really hard in life, might even be disabling for me, right? Like it is something that's causing me discomfort. It's causing me distress. So I'm not looking to necessarily get better at it. I'm looking at how I can work with that in a way that allows me, or putting systems and processes in place around it and supports around it to make it hurt less. So like it might be things like, where's my keys, and having a dedicated, plastic bin, right, with spots so you can visibly see your things right near the front door, right when you come in, so you're not having that stress of like, where are my keys? Are they in the front door?
I regret telling you that story.
It's an inside joke. But like, going, so you can visibly see and check and have that visual cue and reminder, straight away if that's something that's problematic for you. But it's about working out whatever those things are for you and how can you make them less uncomfortable. But it's not necessarily about building your skill. It's about looking at that differently and putting supports in place.
And not just that too, although that is really important. I think it's also worth identifying the fact that most of us have done that in our lives, whether we were early diagnosed or late diagnosed, and particularly with late diagnosed. And when I talk about my journey with people about late diagnosis, there was the instant pushback. First of all, there was no, you don't.
No, you don't. You make too much eye contact to be autistic.
Yeah, you're far too organised to be ADHD, and you don't bounce off walls. I mean, all of those things are misnomers to begin with. But even talking to a friend of mine, and her journey to ADHD diagnosis was that I can't have ADHD because I always know where my keys are, and it was looking at the unmasking of that to say, so when you get home, do you put your keys in the same spot every time? Yes. So when did you do that? Oh, in my sort of mid-20s. Why did you do that? Because I kept losing my keys.
So it becomes your management strategy, right? Yeah.
So I think it's worth highlighting that a lot of the management strategies we have in place are because we didn't have any other kind of coping mechanisms at the time. And if we didn't have those, we wouldn't remember where our keys were.
And those things would be hard.
That's why I have an AirTag on mine.
I love that idea so much. And it's looking at that, and that's also looking at as well those accommodations we have in place too that help us and support us. They can sometimes change over life too. So a lot of the times the women I work with are late diagnosed mums more often than not, and it's suddenly when you have a child, a lot of stuff gets rewired in your brain. Baby brain is real. Perimenopause is real, and the impact that has on symptoms associated with neurodiversity.
So many studies that show
so much. It's like it's soup up there. I still remember having baby brain and doing a urine sample at the doctor's office, and the receptionist getting really concerned because I was in there for like 20 minutes and the light just kept flashing on and off. And I came out eventually and she's like, "Are you okay?" Like, because you're in there and the light's flashing on and off. And I was, in my head, I thought the light switch was the doorknob. So I'm on the other side of the door, getting really frustrated as hell, like, and calling Andrew. He's down in the car going, "I'm locked in the bathroom." And it's because I was using the light switch. Right? The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Like, there's plenty of stupid that can exist in this brain, right? But it's those things can change. And then when you have a child, or you change employment, right? Lots of things can happen that those strategies that you've got in place can fall away, and that you need to revisit them and recheck in and actually develop new ones.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure it's supportive of the environment that you're in at the moment. But focus on growing those strengths. Focus on growing those things that are uniquely you, that make you amazing, because they're the things that you'll build your career on. Those are the things that you're passionate about. Those are the things that are your gift, whatever that might be. Again, every brain's different. And enjoy them unashamedly. But then, it's okay to actually ask for help, to put things in place, to own it and go, well, actually, I'm really rubbish at remembering names.
But also to push back as well.
Yeah.
And, I know that the reason why we have this label in the first place is because likely somebody else made us feel stupid.
Yes.
So whether it was a parent, a friend, a partner, a boss, we've all got unfortunate toxic people who over time have either brought down our self-esteem or who have made us feel less than. Jinx. And I remember one boss in particular that would say horrible things to me, and it would be like, "Oh, I did this last night. It only took me 20 minutes, so it should only take you 40." Yeah. When I quit that job, funnily enough, they said to me at the end, "Now that you've had me for a manager, you can handle anything." And I said, "I don't think that's a compliment. You think it is."
I love that.
So that was pretty wild. And I really feel like when we are younger, this whole, "Are you stupid?" really translates to, "I am not emotionally mature enough to meet you where you are right now or where you need me to be. And so because I feel lacking or I feel guilty, I'm going to project that onto you and make you feel stupid, despite the fact that I'm an adult and you are the child. And in this moment, I have more power than you, and I want to feel more powerful."
Yeah.
And I feel like that was when I had that moment of realization of, like, when somebody called me stupid, it was likely because I wasn't operating on their time frame.
Yeah. Or doing it their way. Yeah.
And I found that to be, it allowed me to have a lot of compassion for them as a person, for starters, and it had allowed me to have even more compassion for myself, because I was a child.
Yeah.
And all I needed was for somebody in that moment to be able to step outside of themselves and recognize that the power dynamic, for one thing, and also understand that I was struggling.
Yeah.
And to struggle is to be stupid. To struggle is to need help. And if that person wasn't able to help me in my time of need, whatever that need was, to understand, to listen, to, focus, to, whatever the case may be, that's not my fault.
Yeah. It's their expectation as well. And it's really interesting too, as we look at the definition as well of stupidity. And it's having or showing a lack of intelligence or common sense.
Yeah.
And the two things that stand up to me is, well, one, how are we defining intelligence? Right?
How do we define common sense?
How do we define common sense? But also as well, common sense is not that common. Right? Like, it's one of those things that you look at it and go, because your way of doing something may not be my way of doing something. And it doesn't mean it's wrong.
No.
But it's also as well with the intelligence side of things too, is, well, what are we actually defining intelligence as? And there are so many different ways on that. But if I find I'm interacting with somebody and their narrative is that I'm unintelligent or that I am stupid, right? Or I'm less than them, and they're making me feel that way and making me feel that small, right? I don't actually have to choose to accept that.
No.
Right? Like, I don't actually have to accept that. And it's okay to actually create distance and to say goodbye as well to relationships that don't actually serve us anymore.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the way I see relationships very much in life is seasonal. Right? People will come and people will go. And that's okay. Like, imagine if we had every possession we've ever owned in our lives, in our houses. So I say that, I know it's probably easier for you to imagine than for me, because you do hold on to a lot more than I do. But the same with people. Like, imagine if we held on to every single person that crossed our paths, and it's like, it's untenable.
Yep.
And we change and we evolve and we grow, and that's okay. And some people may grow with us, others may not. But if somebody has got an agenda that revolves around you being less than, and that's what the relationship is based on,
yeah,
it's a good opportunity to question and go, is this actually the right relationship for me? Whether that's personal, family, friends, like
work,
intimate partner relationship,
yeah,
whatever that might be, how is this relationship still serving me? Is this label still serving me? Because if I'm with somebody and they're making me feel stupid every day by their words and actions, no.
Yeah, I remember an ex. There was I was walking my dog, and they rang and they said, "Are you going to be home soon?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm just going home in a roundabout kind of way." And they said, "Well, that actually describes you perfectly." And that look of confusion.
Why?
Yeah, I was like, okay. Same then boyfriend also. I was describing what I was doing or how I was doing it, and he was like, "That's Hanna logic." And I said, "What does that mean?" He's like, "It's unlike any other person logic." So that's why that person is an ex.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. I feel like we should get that print on a t-shirt though. This is Hanna logic, like.
But that's the thing, like, reframing is so important, because yes, sometimes I do have different logic to people, and I will consider elements or aspects that potentially people haven't thought of before, because if you can be outside of something enough to be able to see how all the pieces fit together, then you don't have to follow the same pathway that everybody else has followed.
Nope. And sometimes you can go, the answer is this. And this was something that always used to get me really frustrated as hell at school, was maths. And like, maths was easy for me, but to the point of detriment where, like, I would know the answer, for example, would be 73. And they'd say, this is what needs to happen. What's the answer? And I'm like, 73. But then I'd be marked down because I wouldn't follow their logic to get the answer the same way. And I'm like, but I know, am I wrong? And they're like, well, no, you're not wrong, but you haven't worked it out the right way. And that was just such like a moment. But that happens so much as well. It's like, I know the answer, right? My brain's got there in a way that yours hasn't, and that's okay. And I can try and show you the light, and I can try and show you how I've got there. But at the same time, my brain gives me the ability to find different perspectives and different answers, and that's a real strength in it. Or because you can't see the path to get from A to B, or you might take a different path, doesn't mean I'm stupid.
I also do, like, the nerd in me does want to say you are wrong, because the answer is 42. And that's a shout out to all the Douglas Adams fans out there. I mean, the thing about school in particular, and speaking of clippings of cartoons, I can't remember if Mum gave me this once or you know what the situation was, but it's one of those ones that has stuck with me, I think, throughout my entire life. And it's basically, there's a tree, and there's a fish, a monkey, a giraffe, an elephant, and a bear. Yeah. And there's a judging panel, and then they all say, right, we're going to judge you now based on how well all of you climb this tree. Yep. And then that's just the whole, not just the school system, but sort of every institutional system. Yeah. Because even with workplaces, there's a certain process that has to be followed. Yep. And if you circumvent that process, now that process is likely there for good reason. Yeah. Whether it's safety, whether it's protocol, whether it's accountability or responsibility, or whatever the case may be. But often processes are inefficient. And for a neurodiverse brain, you can't follow the process. Like, you can follow it in your mind, but there'll likely come up a barrier or a big red flashing light that says, this process does not make sense. Yeah. And I don't understand, why do I have to do it? Yeah. And then you're often perceived as being stupid for asking the question of, why am I doing it this way? Yeah. Well, because the process tells you to, but why? But why? And then you just go around until the person basically tells you to shut up and go do it. Just follow the process. Follow the process. So you're kind of left to feeling really resentful because at the end of the day, you're doing something that doesn't make sense to you for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, same thing. And that's why when I loved, one of my favourite bits of my career was doing a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, and it's like a process efficiency thing, and and working through processes, and that was a big thing of looking at a process that was causing problems. Like, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve? And let's find a different way of getting there. Yeah. Because more often than not, the people were doing the right thing, but the process was broken.
Right.
And I could have that lens and that ability to go, the problem is there. Why is that happening? And then working that through. But I'd always been able to do that, but by getting that certification and going through that gave me a specific process to follow to solve the process, right? So it was accepted that, yes, okay, I've got data now to back up. One of my old bosses used to say, without data, you're just a punk with an opinion.
Oh, we should get that printed on a T-shirt too.
Patent pending. You're right. Yeah. But it's that sort of thing, and having that data to back it up. But again, it's those natural strengths of the brain and being able to work through and find out what they are for you, and working that through. And as we did research for this pod too, right, like a few ones that made me chuckle about people that were labelled as stupid in school that are either neurodivergent or were identified later as more than likely neurodivergent, right? Because we didn't necessarily have the diagnostic labels like autistic or ADHD. Yeah, or even dyslexia or dyspraxia, dyscalculia, all the different dysgraphia, all of the different things that sit under that umbrella. But Thomas Edison, Albert Einstein, Richard Branson, and Cher's actually dyslexic, were all labelled stupid for struggling at school. And again, is that question of that, is it the person or is it the environment? Because like Cher's an EGOT winner, I believe, crazy. And then I love this one as like a flip too, and I'm going to say his name incredibly wrong and I apologize, but Ingvar Kamprad, who's the founder of IKEA, and he's actually dyslexic.
That explains the instructions.
No words. But he's like amazing. And a lot
of relationships he's responsible for breaking up.
But a lot of his incredible spatial abilities allowed him to invent this concept of flat pack furniture, of actually being able to go, you can break this object down into its parts and ship it cheaper and easier and more effectively. And that's from his absolute level of brilliance. And again, often with our brain types, and when we've had things that are harder or easier, and whether that's from a type of neurodivergency like dyslexia where you struggle with words, or dyscalculia where numbers are hard, or dysgraphia where it's, I think, images, and then, dyspraxia, which is movement coordination, or CDC, I think it's now called. There are things that are more hard for you, in certain areas, and even more pronounced, and finding different strategies and accommodations. But often the problem-solving centres of our brains are so far developed to then find a way
around it,
to work around that every single day. When you're walking and existing in a world that is not built for you, you become flipping resourceful and really, really amazing at being able to think about things creatively and finding ways and strategies through every single day.
We think about sort of people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds as well. And so when you've grown up without a lot of resources, you become incredibly creative and to work with what you have. And I often think about, if everything had come easily for me, I wouldn't have built up resilience. I wouldn't have been able to understand what my strengths really are. And I wouldn't have that friction that I needed to, this is called the spicy life for a reason, rub up against, in order to really drive that understanding of innovation and to be able to have that problem solving. Because for a 12-year-old who didn't have a lot of friends, or who had friends in younger year levels, you really kind of have to create an identity that makes you into the kind of person that you want to be, rather than following everybody else. And even in year 3, I was still bringing in fluffy toys to, God, why didn't I know I was neurodiverse earlier? I was bringing fluffy toys into
look, as she says that, sorry, she's sitting with a giant fluffy toy on her lap. If you can't see the video right now,
I have
and I've got a fur
giant
blanket.
pink unicorn
Fluffy
sleeping bag.
Yeah. And then we're also sitting on furry beanbags with fur mats under our feet, right, in a sensory room. So, like, you say you bring in furry toys. I'm like, of course you do.
Of course I did.
Of course you did.
Very different to furries.
Yeah.
But there was so many opportunities to have compassion with my peers that sort of never really came, because there was the understanding that if you were childish in any way, childish equaled stupid.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it's funny as well with stupid, and I love it whenever I watch RuPaul or on RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yeah.
And someone has been up on stage and they have just absolutely nailed a challenge, like whether it's the acting challenge or the girl group or something along those lines, and she laughs and she's like, "You are just so fucking stupid," and she means it in this way of, you got up there, you did such an amazing job because you didn't care what anybody else thought, because you were authentically you in that moment, and because you acted a fool without caring what you looked like. And I think about that a lot, because it helps to change the meaning of that word in such a positive way that, you know, those people win that week and go on to do amazing things. You think of Jinx Monsoon. She's like an icon. And she got called stupid on that show so many times because she was unapologetically herself and funny.
It's amazing. And as you say that, you say the name, I'm drawing blanks in my head, but I'm sure I'll remember later when I do a little Google later. But it's so true. And I love that as like a different way of looking at stupid. And, you know, and again, for me, it's like, I've got some stupid that exists alongside the smart, right? And alongside the brilliant. And like, you know, that was a bit stupid. And that's okay.
Like for me, climbing on the back of a stranger's motorbike in Vietnam because they said they were going to take me to their massive fabric warehouse.
Yep.
And then I just believed them and I jumped on the back of their motorbike and I left my mum sitting in the shop wondering where I'd gone, because I didn't tell it where I'd gone.
And this is last year, folks. This is not young Hanna. This is last year.
Only to discover that my insurance company wouldn't have covered me
because of motorcycles.
So, you know, there are impulsive things that I think that we can also understand as being impulsive because they are novel, but in hindsight, from a safety perspective,
not ideal.
Might not have been the smartest thing to do.
Did you get the amazing dresses though?
I did.
There you go.
And then I wore it to a wedding.
Yeah, love it.
It was great.
So it worked out well in the end. But I think it's recognizing these different things as they might be coming from a different place that's not stupid, but it might be impulsivity or it might be trying to reduce resistance or trying to make something easier. Or maybe it's actually they've come up with an answer that seems completely weird to you. Like the example with the IKEA person, right? Like I'm sure when he started speaking to people about it, I've got this crazy idea where I'm going to sell you furniture and then you're going to assemble it yourself. And people will be like, why? What? But I'm not a qualified carpenter and all the rest of it. But finding a way to do that where people can do that, and then crazily where people will pay more money for it if they've assembled it themselves because they get a psychological payoff and seeing that they're adding value by assembling it themselves. It is just like, it is wild.
Weird side story. But similar things happened back when the box cakes became available.
Yes.
So when box cakes became available, all you had to do was add water.
Yep.
But they didn't sell because people didn't get the satisfaction of feeling
it didn't feel like a real cake.
That they had made something themselves. So it wasn't until they said add water or milk, add some eggs and some oil that people actually felt that they had contributed enough to the process.
Packet cake mix,
100%.
Yep. And so it's really interesting how that all works. But again, the brain that comes up with that and the thinking that happens around it. So it's pretty wild. So what is your tool in the spice jar this week?
I often think about the times where I was called stupid in a relationship. And I think about what I brought to that relationship at the time and the strengths and the amazing problem-solving, resilience, and also giving that I brought. So my spice jar tool this week is actually having that, because again, I'm a visual learner.
Yep.
So whether somebody is more read write, kinetic, audible, or somebody that prefers visual learning,
Yep.
is to think about how, so my takes on relationships, write down your 5 strengths in your relationship.
Yep.
And if you need a visual cue, put it down on post-it notes, pop it up on the mirror, and look at them every single morning and say your strengths to yourself, because that's how you make your strengths stronger. You reinforce the belief that they are your strengths.
Yes.
So once you identify them, you put them in a place where you can physically see them, or you might record yourself saying them to yourself that you listen to first thing in the morning or last thing before you go to bed. It becomes your alarm. Yeah. And, whether that's something that you might have a gratitude journal every day, you might write it down. So whatever your learning strength is, however you best learn, identify what your strengths are. And even if you've got a partner or there's a different kind of relationship, if you don't know what your strengths are, ask somebody else, because they will tell you. And most people will be ecstatically happy to tell you what your strengths are, but we don't often ask the question. Yeah. So we have this internal view of what our own strengths are, and then it's also good to get a reflection from other people as to what they think your strengths are, and then do a bit of a comparison.
I love that. I love that. And I like the idea of having it somewhere where it's not requiring your brain to remember that you've done it. Because again, like for us, it can be hard sometimes to remember the thing that we've done.
Yes.
So by putting it somewhere visual, my house, for the record, peeps, I've got chalk markers and I've got whiteboard markers, and any single surface in my house, we've got plastic, like a plastic tablecloth, clear plastic tablecloth that sits on the dining room table. Any surface in my house that is not paint or fabric is fair game. So splashbacks, windows, tablecloth, mirrors in the bathroom. Like, it can sometimes feel like I'm living in a beautiful mind. But like having those reminders, like even on the bathroom mirror, brush teeth, brush hair, like being able to see what those things are in order, again, just reduces that mental load. So I love that idea of adding strengths into that.
Yeah. Because once you see your strengths as well, it also, there's a part of your brain as well that might question it too.
Yeah.
And then it will actually look for evidence.
Yes.
As well.
100%. Yeah. If we're carving a new neural pathway by reminding ourselves what the outcome is, our brains will then look for evidence to prove us right.
Yeah. And you think about all the times you showed up for somebody, all the times you were there for somebody, all the times where, you may not have necessarily provided emotional support, but you provided practical support.
Yes.
Your strengths in the relationship. So that if you do something in your relationship where you go, that was stupid, and it could just be, forgetting to pick somebody up or forgetting to do something for somebody.
That you feel stupid.
You feel stupid.
You can see your strengths.
You can remind yourself of all of the other times that you have shown up rather than focusing on the negative.
I love that. And I'm going to do 3 strengths for you, I reckon. I think for you, it's like...
I'm going to cry.
I know.
Oh,
I love it.
I'm going to cry.
This is so much fun for me.
It's like pushing a button.
No, it's just like... But no, for like, if anyone that's blessed enough to span, she's just like one of those people that just so knows people so well and so intimately, and like you dive right in there. And you get to know people. It's almost like you get to know their essence and their soul. And then you don't just even take that and carry that with you and you see the best in them. You then connect them with other people who are like them or who will get, something out of the relationship. So you're like this amazing just humanist in a level which I will just never be able to process and understand. Second of all, you are like just super fun and one of like the funniest, like craziest people I know in like all of the, or stupidest, to quote RuPaul, in like the best ways. And we just have the best time together, and like your encyclopedic knowledge of quotes and songs and being able to rabbit things off. And I just love that. And then the other thing I love about you is just how giving you are. And like you will always think of other people, always 100%, and just give so much of yourself and whatever you can to help and support other people, and help lift other people up with no sense of threat or, I love it.
Thank you.
I love it.
I want to do you now.
Oh, God. This is where you see the difference in emotion. Like I'm like not really at all emotional. We'll cover that in another podcast.
I want to say that you have an incredible ability to not just adapt, but the way that you have grown over the years just shows this incredible depth of not just intelligence, but emotional intelligence.
Mm.
And I think emotional intelligence is just such um, a key strength for you, because when you understand what somebody else is going through, you often put, like, even if you can't feel their feelings, you will put yourself in another person's shoes and try to understand things from their perspective as well. So I think that's really fantastic.
Sorry, I just get into that immediately. My head goes to that joke of like, you're going to make someone angry. First, put yourself in their shoes, because then,
and then take their shoes.
yeah, because then if they're going to chase you, they have no shoes or something like that. Again, I've remembered it wrong. But
I love
sorry,
it.
yeah, so, yeah.
I think that you are not just an amazing mother, but an amazing friend as well. You have looked after me, and you've got such a beautiful care going. I'm going to get emotional. This beautiful, like, caregiving ability as well. So I see you with your daughter, and I see you with, other people. And, when you moved to Perth as well, you made friends so easily, and, there was such this bond, and every single person I spoke to was just like, Freya is utterly amazing.
Aww.
And, that's not hard to see. And I would also say is the adventures that you and I have had together as well. In a crisis, you are the most level-headed person.
Oh, serial killer calm, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit
scary.
freaky at times, but you have this amazing ability to stand still in a storm.
Yeah.
And like it almost direct the storm at times.
Bend it to my will.
But to be able to, like, not just weather the storm, but ride it.
Yeah.
And come out the other side a stronger person for it as well. And I think that's an amazing ability that you have.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so funny as you say that too, right? Like so much of that you've spoken about there, and I think I've spoken about you too, it comes down to like the strengths of our brains a little bit too. And how they're wired. And so for Spice Jar this week, sort of a similar type activity, but it's leaning into that Starry profile and just taking a moment, right? There's a little bit of a template there where you can look at some of your, points of brilliance, right? And the stuff that's really easy and really, really natural for you, so like me, calm in a crisis, right? Like the more gushing headwinds, the better. Like it's just, it does not faze me at all. Like it's, whatever it might be, it's just like, this is what we need to do. It's like time itself actually slows down. And that's wild. And that's like an amazing, I think a really amazing ability, that I have in my brain. But also as well leaning into some of the stuff that's harder, like the ability to follow process and detailed processes, attention to detail, some wild, crazy stories in that space. I remember one time we'd spent 6 months working on a strategy review for a large part of a big ASX corporate organisation, right? And we send it off to the CEO, high-fiving me and my boss, and we're like, it's done. And we've been doing 80-hour weeks for like forever. And his phone rings and it's the CEO, and he goes, why does it sheet? And he goes, yeah, we've proofread it. Page 1 of the pack, right? He's about to deliver this to the entire leadership team of the organisation, like several hundred employees. And the problem statement was meant to say, problem statement 1, to date, the business has been driven exclusively by assets. Left the T out of assets. So the CEO was about to get up in front of an entire organisation and refer to his entire leadership team as a bunch of asses. And again, like this brilliant, like transformational strategy with like a glaring typo on the front page, right? And that I think kind of sums up my brain beautifully. But like I own that, and I go like I caveat, yeah, I'm not great for attention to detail. Proofread it, get someone else to proofread it if needed, look into it. But at the same time, right, if attention to detail is important to you, like feel free to sign up for the role, like, because I'm just not going to do that. That's okay. And if it's like legal important documents, we'll review it. But if it's not, it's just like I'm just going to let it coast and pass.
I think though with you, like you have a beautiful attention to detail when you want to, like when you want to focus on it. Like I think about all the times we went camping, right? And you would organize the food, you'd organize like how we were going to get there, you know, the tent situation. So like all the details and things like that, how we were, you know, who was coming, when they were coming. And so there was this wonderful kind of organization, which I always attributed to the fact that, you know, your star sign is quite organized.
Yeah. Earth model.
And the times where, you know, we'd be in a supermarket and I wouldn't have a clue in the world on what to take for a camping trip.
Yeah.
And you were just like straight onto it. You were like, yeah, we're going to grab this, we're going to grab this, we're going to grab this. I still remember that 4 bean stew that we made.
Oh gosh.
At that camping trip.
Yeah, don't ever do that again.
That was a
we
terrible
were warm
mistake.
that night. But we were warm that night, but it was done. It was purchased. But I think as well that probably what doesn't get seen in those instances is like the amount of preparation and stuff that happens in the background. And more often than not, I will forget things at the last minute, or I won't remember everything, or I'll remember to do the wrong things. But it's usually salvageable. And that's the thing, is in 90% of the time of what we do, it's salvageable. Like very rarely we're actually talking a gushing head wound. Like, you know, and it's, so I can either choose to beat myself up about it, or I can just move on with it, accept that happened. And that was, you know, like the 4 bean stew, that was less than ideal. It's so many levels. But like, you know, it's just going that's, you know, that's something that we can manage and, you know, we can work through. But yeah, a lot of attention goes into that stuff. And at the same time in my brain, it's capable of seeing a lot of detail, but not necessarily distilling the detail. So like when I was opening my practice, like I had 146 tickets of different things I needed to do in order to open my counselling practice. And on equal importance, my head was the essential oil blend I would use in the therapy room, and obtaining my business insurance and my counselling registration with the ACA. All of those things in my head were equally important.
Yeah.
And so again, it's understanding in my brain, it's harder for me to distill what's a priority and what's not. So I can make a list of all the things, but then use AI or use a buddy, use somebody else to actually help me distill what's urgent and what's important, but having that awareness of it and going, yeah, that's okay.
Yep. And also just a reminder that the task that might be something under the bed, for example, it might be a box of shoes, it might be a box of bags or books or whatever the case may be. Just because you can't pull it out from under your bed and go through it, that you might need somebody to be there as your body double, that does not make you stupid.
No.
Because again, on the face of it, simple task, but for whatever reason underneath, whether it's dopamine, whether it's perfectionism, whether it's any number of things, you know, and what I like to call the monsters under the bed, you know, the reasons why, unless we actually dig deep and understand, like, what is the cause, we're never actually really going to be able to move past that, because we'll still be stuck in the cycle that stops us from asking for help, that stops us from actually trying to understand more about our patterns of behavior. And self-awareness doesn't always create movement as well. Self-awareness is the
it's the first step.
It's the first step. Being aware is 100% the first step, but it's a form of avoidance as well. Because if you can identify what it is, you don't always have to create an action. You could then turn it into an excuse.
We might have to dive into that one more on another day. I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. But it's true. Like, I mean, self-awareness is what you choose to do with it. But I'm a big believer when you see something, it's hard not to unsee it. You might not be ready to take action with it right today, and that's okay. But not everything you even need to. Like, you know, it's just being able to see what's there and then work it through.
Yeah.
If you want.
If you want to. And if you don't want to, that's okay too.
But yeah, today's like my Spice Jar tool today is all just about creating that visibility and popping out what your strengths and what some of those difficult areas are. If you decide you want to do accommodations or strategies or whatever, great. If you decide you want to work on your strengths, great. But if you just want to have that awareness and start looking at it, and so you can start wrapping your arms around it, that's cool. And I love the idea of then putting those strengths up, especially relationship-based strengths, and popping them up where you can see them and remember the brilliant way you shine.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us this week.
Yes.
We hope you've enjoyed listening to it as much as we've enjoyed talking about it.
Our stupid ramblings on stupid. I love it. Until next time,
we'll be uncovering yet another unjust label given to us over the period that we've been alive.
And so I guess stay spicy until then. You're listening to the Neurospice and Life podcast
with Hanna and Freya, besties, brains, and more.
If you've enjoyed listening, follow us on YouTube or your favourite podcast app and share it with someone else who knows the sting of a sticky label.
We'll see you next time. Until then, stay spicy, stay wonderful.